The topic that we will be discussing today is staying ahead of the game, AI skills and strategic readiness for executives. The topic that you found in your marketing materials. Okay, so just a bit of background about me. I'm not the most intelligent person in the world, but I do have a PhD in business and social economic science. Currently, I'm sitting in Vienna, in Austria, in Europe, and I have a master's in informatics. This was actually done in South Africa back at the University of Pretoria. Currently, I'm leading two AI projects. One is a startup and another is in-house at a organization. And I've consulted more than 15 tech startups back in the days when I still worked in an incubation hub. So I was quite in touch with the technical innovations that were happening. And I'm also a data science lecturer at the university that I studied at for my PhD. Okay, so that's just a bit of background. There's my LinkedIn profile if you want to get connected with me. But yes, let's go on. So to start the presentation, I thought it would be good to have a bit of an icebreaker for everyone to have a look at some pictures and tell me in the chats, or tell me in the chats if you think this picture is AI generated, or do you think that this is a real photo? So there is this big notion about AI generated photo and how well it's doing to replace us humans. I'm just going to move this aside so I can see the chat going on. So you're welcome to drop a message inside the chat to indicate whether you think this is a AI photo or if this is real. I will give it a few seconds before I move on, a few moments before I move on. Okay, I see there's quite a lot of mixed opinions. Some say AI generated, some say real, some say anybody's guess. That's great. Too difficult to say. That's also a possible one. Can't see the picture. Can you see? Oh, okay. The slides are still showing up for you. Might need to wait a bit. Okay. Okay. I will move on. So no, this is not AI generated. This is actually a real photo that was taken. And this one? Some say real. Some say AI. Yes. I'll give it a bit of time as well. This one also threw me off a little bit because of how well the tuning of the lighting was for this photo. But this one is actually AI generated, which is very interesting. And then this one. See, some people say it's AI, some people say it's real. Yeah, a lot of mixed ideas about whether this is a real or if this is AI. Yes. Okay. This was actually real. It's not AI generated. Okay. This one? This looks like it could be like a Namibia or Lesotho. Not Lesotho. Namibia maybe. Yeah, the crocodile also throws you off because it doesn't look complete. So is that real or AI now? Could it be that they just broke the crocodile and it's actually how it is? Or is it an AI fault? And they also have a wide mix of trees. Do all of the trees show up in the same place? But it is a private property, so could they have planted all these different trees themselves? Okay. Very specific to Namibia. That is just my gut feeling. Namibia is really just my gut feeling. No, this is not AI generated. This is actually real. Okay. This one, this one could be quite an easy giveaway if you know what to look for. Some real, some AI. Okay. Okay. Again, some real, some AI. That's good. AI from real base. That's interesting. That's interesting perspective. No, I was just reading the comments. Okay. Yeah, the shadows. Okay, fantastic. So this one is definitely AI. Majority of us got it right. The pants is a little bit funny. And yeah, the shadow works is also a little bit strange. And I think this is a very large hamster carrying a something on top of his head, which is very weird for a hamster to do in its daily activities. So yes, this is AI generated. Okay, what about this one? This is the second last one that we have. Okay, we have quite confident reels coming in the chat. Okay, lots of reels, some AIs, shadow inconsistent with light, one person said. Okay, this one, ironically, is AI generated. Okay, last one. This one I took from a different source. Is my Can everyone hear me fine? I see someone's says my sound is muted. Okay. Yes, we have. Oh, okay. Okay, good. You can hear me. Okay, good. Okay. My voice is real. Thank you. Yes, my voice is real. Okay. Yes, this is AI generated. So the source is also there at the bottom. I'll send out the slides at the end. This is AI generated, and it's scary how good this can be. It also has a sticker. This is AI to throw you off. But that was actually a label to tell you that it's AI. Okay. So the other pictures I also took from a website that's called what is it called now? Is it AI or not? Something like that. The link is inside the slides right at the beginning over there at the bottom. So if you want to go and play, you're welcome to go and play. It's very interesting as an icebreaker for your future presentations as well if you need to. Yeah, but that was very interesting as an icebreaker. Okay, so we can see that AI has become extremely good at some tasks. But before we jump into the topics of AI, I think it's good to discuss a bit about history. Have a look at history. Uh, uh, have a look at history to see what we can potentially learn from what has happened in the past. So here I want to compare the companies Google and Nokia. So uh, a lot of you might actually know this story, but back in 2007, Olli-Pekka, which was the CEO at the time, Nokia decided to go into acquisitions of this company called Navtech. And Navtech was in the process of developing these sensor-based technology to scan the environment to look for traffic that was happening on the road. And they thought that this was a very good idea to find out how many cars there was and how much traffic is. So after the acquisition, they realized that Google was also silently approaching this problem as well, but with a completely different method. They just looked at the amount of cell phone signals that was on the road at one particular time, and they could predict traffic based upon that method. And after that, we know everything was history. Nokia went down into the waters after spending $8 billion on this technology, on this acquisition. And then Google took over the race on this one. So what we can see from this as a typical example is that if the wrong technology was picked, the company can make a very big turn in its trajectories. So this becomes a very important lesson moving forward. So with this, we have a look at what is the landscape that is happening here today. And with the AI expansions, we can see that there is something similar that is happening, but not just to one big organization, not just to one company. We see this happening to all the companies across the field. And we can see that some of these examples that we show here, Stitch, if you have UI designers in-house, you can use Stitch instead to build your own designs quickly, to explain your ideas with a few prompts, and then you can ship this out. So the same goes with graphics designers with Nano Banana, with software developers with Lovable. There is also a lot more other options like Replit and so on, and customer relationships with Gamma, sales coaching with Gong, and a lot more. So AI is becoming quite dominant in replacing a lot of these skills and industries and companies. So the question is, how many of you is doing employee training as a main consulting company, or providing customer relationship sales consultants, or providing graphics designs and software developers as a main core business. So here we can see that it's quite disruptive with all of these new technologies coming out. And even myself, I've hired my own little developer. This is a mini PC. This is a computer that is running OpenClaw. It's quite the big hype right now, where it has access to my whole computer, and I can talk to it through Telegram and give it commands about what it needs to do, and then it goes off and does it. So now it checks my calendar, it helps me set up meetings, it helps me fix bugs on my projects overnight, and all I need to do is send a message on WhatsApp or Telegram. It also has its 2 pet rocks on the windowsill. I have no idea why those are there, but yes, it has its pet rocks. Okay, so with all of these disruptions going on, what we can also see is the merger and acquisitions of startups is also rising quite a lot. So we know that mergers and acquisitions consist of 2 components. One is merge and one is acquisitions. But if we talk about startups, it's usually most of the cases a large corporate buying out a startup, and this provides us some plausible assumptions that we can go from here. So plausible doesn't mean it's exactly accurate, but it's enough for us to speculate. Usually the case where a big company would buy out a small corporate is because the small company would have a particular technology innovation that is a threat to the big organization, or is a complementary element to the big organization. And we've seen this happen with Google Maps buying over Waze, where Waze was developing a technology that was exactly the same as Google Maps. And instead of competing with Waze, they just decided to buy them over. So we can see that the amounts of mergers and acquisitions for startups is going up quite a lot through the years. So there is definitely a global fear global, or let's not say fear, global understanding that startup innovations are becoming very important, because the question is, can startups actually replace your organization by completely re-innovating the way things are working? Okay, so the takeaway, the main point that we're coming to is we need to take this seriously before it becomes a threat. And so the way we would start is by looking at the AI skills that we need to hire in order to make this change happen. Okay, so in the past, we looked at AI skills that are surrounded around digital transformation. So we had a lot of paperwork that we need to transform into a digital system. So this was quite a big skill. Then with the big data hype, we had the data-driven decisions that came into place, the business intelligence and those aspects. And then we had some of the innovation leadership and technology strategy that came into place to assist with the advancement of innovation within an organization. But after 2024, what we are slowly starting to see on the CVs that are rolling out is these skills that we have never been trained for, but somehow we're accountable for. For example, AI compliance readiness that delves into legal aspects of AI, where we might not even know all the things about it. Like if we have Kanye West as our AI avatar, and Kanye West as an AI avatar says something that damages another person's reputation, is the defamation on the AI, the person who created the AI, or us as the company that employed that AI? Okay, so there is a lot of complication that happens. Okay, and we have other skills, AI decision accountability and things like that. So there is a lot of new skills that are popping up in the CVs and in the industries that we never been trained for. We don't know the back ends of everything. And now all of a sudden we have to consider, well, we don't have the time to actually pursue all of these AI generated skills or AI skills. So how do we prioritize the skills, and under what basis do we consider these skills? So the best place we can come to, okay, it's fine, we'll let that roll, is the Gartner's hype cycle. And the Gartner's hype cycle, to give a very brief explanation for those that don't understand, majority of you should have a good understanding on the Gartner's hype cycle. But it talks about the hype, where on the left we have expectation. The higher it is, the more expectation it has. And with high expectation comes hype. So everybody thinks that the technology would change the world if the expectation is very high. And then over here we have time as a measurement moving to the right. And they've created a theoretical pipeline to show you how each of the technology follows a particular pattern, moving from the start of the timeline as it's being created and established into reality, all the way until it's reached its plateau of productivity. So the plateau of productivity means that it's actually useful for humankind, and it's already productive in the industry. When a particular technology reaches the plateau of productivity, a new set of technology would emerge. Sometimes it emerges before it reaches there, but in this case, I've pointed out causal AI. And this would be a very good example to move forward with. LLM, large language models, or ChatGPT as we would know it, is no longer on this chart now. And the causal AI is a derivative of LLMs, large language models, because large language models, or ChatGPT as we know about it, is only predicting the next word, the next most likely word that comes out. And there is no decision logic or reasoning capabilities of LLM. And that's why they had to now establish a causal AI as a way to try and figure out what is the reasoning logic and capabilities that humans have that LLMs do not have. So this is a completely new field that's coming out. And we can see that it's already starting to climb this bar over here. So what we also realize is in the past, there was a lot more dark blue, and now there is light blue. These colors also have meanings. White means less than 2 years before it reaches the plateau of productivity. Yellow, light blue is 2 to 5 years. Dark blue is 5 to 10 years. And yellow is more than 10 years. So what this is telling us is how fast do you have to prepare for this technology to become productive in the industry? So that means if I can see the use cases of causal AI, I have to wait 2 to 5 years before it reaches the plateau of productivity before I can reap its full benefit. Okay, so what follows causal AI? This is a bit of a creativity work now. As a company that potentially looks into the applications of these technology, what follows causal AI? And that technology that follows causal AI could be a potential venture that you get yourself into. Because in 2 to 5 years, I can build something that utilizes the full capability of causal AI, and the market will be ready for me. So that is how to read that. But but with all of these technologies comes a set of skills that we have never truly grasped fully. So I've given an example. With causal AI, we all of a sudden have to look at skills of causal inference, structural causal models, quasi-experimental methods, regression, discontinuity design, and so on. And all of these skills is not through common skills that you would find on your CV, but all of a sudden we have to now learn about this. Okay, so what that demonstrates is all of the technology that we're seeing on this hype cycle has their own set of skills. That's a lot. That's a lot of skills that we now have to all of a sudden dig into and find out and understand what and why. So how do we reduce the work that is required to evaluate the AI skills that we need? First, we need to come back to the fundamental assumptions of these AI skills and the goals and the objectives. So if we look at the skills that we have with the AI, we can apply it to a AI technology itself. The AI technology can be found in the Gartner's hype cycle. And with the AI technology, there is a fundamental logic to it, how it works and what is the fundamental reasoning behind it. So LLM is there to predict the next most plausible word. That is the underlying fundamental logic behind it. Then we come to the assumptions that underlie the logic of the technology. So the assumptions with large language models is if you have enough words, it would sound intelligent. And that is large language models. And what was the goal and objective of the AI? I thought to include this as part of the discussion, but it does not fully align with the assumptions page itself. The core concept is the underlying assumptions. What is assumed when this AI technology was created? And then we can know whether this AI technology would actually succeed or not, because critical thinking happens at the assumptions level. Okay. So, for example, if I say, my high school teacher is very intelligent, and he says that I will become a rocket scientist. Okay, there is underlying assumption that my high school teacher is intelligent, but the missing assumption component is that my high school teacher is probably not a rocket scientist. So for my high school teacher to properly evaluate my capabilities to become a rocket scientist is next to nothing. But without evaluating the underlying assumptions of that statement, we can see that that anyone could misjudge that statement to be true. Okay, so again, also just to add onto the cake, some cherry, what is the goals and objectives of this particular AI? Is it to work with humans, or is it there to replace humans? And we've seen this happen with Klarna. Klarna tried to implement a AI to do the sales consulting in 2002, 2022 and 2023, where they laid off 40% of their staff and replaced the majority of it with AI agents. And a big portion of that was customer service. Then uh, then somewhere in 2025, they reversed this choice and they're hiring their customer service back, where they realize that humans actually like to talk to humans and not AI agents. And AI agents are very easy to trick in order for people to give the AI agents false instructions so that they can get free money or whatever it is, payback and things like that. Okay, so from that, we can see that the choices that you make for your company regarding the AI that you want to embark is very important. But what is not our responsibility? First is to predict the AI techniques. We can speculate, but we cannot fully guarantee what the future would hold for the AI techniques that are coming out. Second, it's not our responsibility to validate that the AI technology itself is going to perform at its peak and is going to do extremely well for our organization. Third, we cannot outrun AI. So instead of running away from the AI, we have to embrace it. So what are we accountable for then? During this process, we are accountable for the judgment of picking the skills and the AI and the underlying assumptions for this. And then the definitions of ownership. What is owned by AI and what is owned by us, and how to provide the last one, guardrails. How to make sure that if the AI fails, we still have a way to overcome the problems without the technology itself. And how does that impact the organization and the people that are inside our organization? So this is more of a accountability from a executive level. Okay, so it comes back to the core understanding that judgment is the core skill that is required for now in the time of AI, and not any of the particular AI skills itself, because that would change, that would morph, and we would continue with that. So what I put together is a judgment framework to let us calculate mentally. I think it would be a little bit more difficult on paper, but you're welcome to try to calculate the expected value that you would receive from embarking on a journey with new AI technology. And this looks at the expected value that you would receive over a certain amount of years. And in order to calculate this, we multiply the probability of success by the payoff. So how much are we going to gain out of this? And this payoff could be monetary, or it could be more structural, and so on. And then, of course, we minus the costs that are involved to hire the people, train the people, licensing, and so on and so forth. Now comes some of the questions. How many years do we put into the end? Can we strategize for 2 years? Can our company sustain ourselves for 5 years? Are we planning to reshape ourselves in 10 years? Okay, so the number of years as a component becomes an extremely strategic question. The next one is, how is probability calculated? So I put together a formula to describe how the success of the probability. I see somebody mentioning in the chat that probability of success is a hard one to calculate. Exactly, yes. So I put together a formula to describe how the probability success is calculated. First one, we need to sum up all the possible decision paths. So all of the AI technologies that we could potentially embark and build a venture out of it, whether it's through innovation or it's through restructuring and so on, and look at the individual probabilities of success with that particular venture. Let's say we go with AI agents. What is the probability of success with that, given the market conditions? So right now, how is the market taking AI agents? How is the political sphere? How is the social sphere? How is the cultural sphere, and so on? And what is the current conditions of our competitors? The probability of our competitors embarking on the same adventure and already having some sets of components ready to distribute on this. Okay. This would give us all of the possibilities of our success. But so where I got this idea from is poker. When we're playing poker, there's a few things that's on the table. What's the cards that is out ready? What's on your hand? And what's on your competitor's hand? Every time there is a new card that is placed, we understand mentally that the opportunities for us to succeed changes depending on what is in the environment and what is in our competitor's hands, and what is available on our hands. And there is often a statement that says, how many outs do we have? So with this, there is some slight differences between poker and reality. In poker, everything is set. We know that there's 52 cards in the playing deck, and we know very clearly what items are on our hands, and we know very clearly that our opponents has a certain amount of cards in their hands as well. In reality, there is a lot of times when executives do not fully scope how many cards in the deck, what cards do I have in my hands, what is all of the options that I have left available. And this becomes the defining points of whether a company can succeed or not. So one problem with this formula is all possibilities. All possibilities become an extremely difficult task to embark on and do a calculation for. So how do we narrow down all possibilities? We have to look particularly at our vision and our mission. Then we can narrow down the AI skills and technology from this. And from this, then we can calculate a lot more realistic probability for our success. Okay. So the take-home reflections is, oh, I already spoke for 1 hour. Jeez, okay. I didn't know I spoke for that long. The take-home reflections is, first, how many years can we afford to strategize for our end goal? And second, how many possible decision paths can we embark on that aligns with our vision and mission, of course, and how can we narrow down the decision paths to our vision and mission? And from there, we can better judge the skills that we need for our own company. Okay, so again, with these skills, you take it from the Gartner's hype cycle, and then, okay, I've only been speaking for 30 minutes. Whew, thank you. Okay, good. Okay, so from that, you can properly evaluate what are the skills that you need for your company that would make sense for your vision and mission. And as well, don't forget to look at the underlying assumptions. Okay, that is all from myself. Do we have any questions? I will open it up to the floor now. You're welcome to type it in the chat as well if you don't want to switch on your mic. Apologies for the anxiety.
I don't want to leave you hanging, G, so let me ask you this question. I work for HP, so someone should go on mute, speaking in Afrikaans in the background. Right, so my question is on the overvaluation of these AI startups, and if you have any data on that, because acquiring these AI startups at the moment is extremely difficult because they're 4-5x times the actual value. So what would your recommendation be on acquiring ones still at an affordable price, right? We're talking about affordability for really big tech companies that so yeah, maybe you would say it's maybe like a scouting type of activity that you have to do these days, right? Like coaches go to universities and scout out who has ideas or seed fund them. So yeah, just wanted to hear a bit of your ideas around that.
Okay. Yeah, I think this would take so I primarily swim in the startup space. So my way of thinking naturally tends towards becoming more startup orientated. Because with startups it's so easy to build up a sellable company at this day and age that sometimes it might be faster for you to just get a team separated from the big organization that can run as a startup and start from scratch. And yeah, so for acquiring a startup, it becomes quite difficult, as you say, and the price is very elevated, and your competitors can then buy that startup out and so on. So in some cases, it might be faster just to have an in-house team that focuses on replacing the startup's technology by competing particularly directly with the startups that you want to acquire.
I think that's great advice. And the connected question to that would be these kind of skills are quite sought after. You see the kind of salaries that the big tech companies are offering people with these skills. It's ludicrous, right? So what's the advice that you would have to, let's imagine we take your advice and say, okay, create a startup department, incubation department, we run it like that. To find the talents, but to find the people who are still kind of affordable to sign. Like it's like you've got to sign sports talents, right? It's kind of like that at the moment.
Yes. Yeah.
So what would you say? What would your suggestion be regarding the strategy for people gaining the talent?
Yeah. So I think it will come back to how investors pick their entrepreneurs. The best entrepreneurs aren't always the best with the skill sets. You need some technical capabilities that you can maybe shift over to the new department, but the entrepreneurs that would succeed are those with the personality for an entrepreneur, those that potentially wouldn't give up, are coachable, but have this in-house driven attitude that they're going to die with this venture that they embark on. And that is not a particular set of skills that you need to pay for, but rather a personality,
personality,
archetype that you're searching for instead. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then with the rest of the skills, you can borrow from in-house across as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's my opinion. Yeah. Thank you for the questions. It was very insightful. Yes, we have another hand.
Thank you, Bruce. It was quite informative. It's Aziza speaking. My question is a little bit more simpler, I would say. I would, like a lot of the businesses, well, that I'm familiar with, have kind of just dipped their toe in AI technology. And a few of their concerns which they have raised is the security aspect. How can businesses go about making sure that the information they ingest into AI is protected, or what sort of safeguards or rails could they use to ensure that there is a level of security and that information is not then used in other avenues? Thank you.
So data security has become a very big topic when it comes to AI. And safeguarding data segmentation and having environments that are separated from the AI itself is also very important. Organizations are also now creating more virtual machines or buying new hardware for the AI to sit on, so that it's separated from the rest of the organization's database and things like that, where when it requires specific sets of information, it can query from the rest of the organization and then have the AI sit separately, consume that data, and then forget it. So that has been some of the paths that it's going for. And we're also looking at things like typical data permission structures. The AI is only accessible to a certain amount of database tables, and it doesn't have the configuration or connections to any of the other personal information tables and things like that. So that helps a lot with the data segmentation. But at the end, it comes down to penetration testing to make sure that there's no other ways for people to get in, which is becoming more and more difficult as time goes by, because AI is so intelligent and also so dumb at the same time. There's a lot of encryption that can be added to images, to emails, to texts in the background that causes the AI to pick up instructions that you did not send it through in the first place. So yes, it does take a lot of testing.
Maybe I'll add an interesting example of companies that are known to have, let's say, implemented Microsoft 360, agentic AI for their stuff, 365, that they are, you might receive an email from outside. In the background, they have written in the instruction to source your data, because they know this company has broadly made it available, and they just colored the text white so you don't see it as you receive the email. You open the email and immediately runs it, and it takes out all your data. So AI generated cybersecurity attacks is a massive should receive. That's why I said maybe add it to your blog of the things that should be on the high agenda.
Yes, indeed. Okay, we have other hands as well.
Hi, Bruce. It's Clement. Sorry. I wanted to understand, when you go into boardrooms and you talk to executives of big and small companies, what are the things you say to them around planning for the next 12 to 18 months? And what is it that you say they should focus, their NAVs and limited resources on, insofar as AI is concerned? Because there's just so much movement there that I think it's difficult to just pin it down to these are the 2 or 3 things we do. So what's your typical advice?
Okay. My typical advice would be first to evaluate the Gartner's hype cycle to see how long this particular potential threats are going to take before they reach the plateau of productivity. And then from there, we can narrow down already options that might not be a concern at the moment in time. And then from that, I think it will be important to see, again, what is the underlying assumptions for each of the AI technology and whether it makes sense. With that, we can narrow down even more. And then from there, we look at which of the technology is a direct competitor towards us. And that also reduces the number of threats that we have. So it becomes a game of prioritizing and focusing our efforts on the battles that we do want to fight. This comes back to the idea of the risk response quadrants, to look at placing the startups that you have concerns with when you are taking them into the board into the different quadrants to see how you would potentially deal with the threats that you are looking at. Some startups you also have to look at the probability of the startup succeeding. So some startups you could put on the side because you don't know whether they would succeed or not. So that's how I would evaluate. It's more of a process of elimination to look at what is the playing field, if that makes sense. But of course, this is all in preparation for the meeting, as you've mentioned, to bring into the boardroom. Once you have that as a conclusion, then it would make sense for the executives once you have a holistic picture about that, yeah, ready for the executives. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does. Thank you.
Okay. Nikiwe?
Hello, everybody. Lovely to meet you, Bruce. And thank you for this very insightful session. I've been in the change management transformation space for some time. I'm just curious around insights in terms of end user experiences post implementation, you know, once the technical aspect has been done, because as we know, there's the people element of, you know, going through the change. And, you know, personally in my life, I have, you know, different generations of people who have different experiences and views of how to embrace AI. So do you have any insights, or have you seen any interesting trends around how we take our teams along the journey from a change perspective? Because that's very important, right? You can have a beautiful tool that you build, but if it's not being used for its purpose, people are afraid, etc. How do you overcome that? Any advice or insight?
Yeah, so change management is always a very difficult topic when it comes to the implementation of a new technology. What I've experienced in the past is everything that looks like what it was before is perfect. Maybe a little bit sugar coating on top of it. And since the whole world is now geared towards messages and the ChatGPT interface, that is a very good place to start and then branch out. So if they see ChatGPT interface, they will be comfortable to engage. And then if you need to branch out from that, that works a lot better. So a slightly altered user journey. Yeah, so anything that looks like what it was before, fantastic. If that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yes, we have one more hand. Richard?
Hi. I was just trying to say that it just seems to try and quantify all the elements of your formula.
Yes.
Becomes extremely difficult when you don't have perfect knowledge yet of the technology. You haven't yet sort of enough experiences to the probability of success of implementation. You're not quite sure of the payoff. And at the same time, the formula doesn't take into account, as I can see it, it depends how you put your competitor conditions, it might sort of fall under that. The risk of not doing something. There might actually be no payoff, but there might be losses if you don't do something. You know, it's such a difficult thing to start quantifying into a sort of a. It does give a framework for thinking, but I think to actually put figures into there is extremely challenging when you don't have this sort of perfect information or even near perfect information to weigh those things up.
Yes.
And that's the challenge of judgment. One has to sort of make a judgment call as to how much to invest and how to become involved to avoid the risks of becoming inefficient, falling behind against you know, the possible cost you're going to spend, and it also depends on what your company's got to spend. So I think it's insightful sort of starting point to think through, but very challenging to actually implement.
Yes. Yeah. So yes, thank you. That's exactly what my concern with this formula as well is, because I can't add all of the details onto this formula. Considering the fact that you might be building your product halfway and you realize, okay, no, it's a dead venture. Let's pivot. So what is the effects of change and pivot according to this formula? And with the market conditions, do you consider the Pascal? Do you consider global influence? Do you consider and so on? So there is a lot of components that could potentially affect the organization. And that's why this formula is more there just to provide a fundamental understanding of how to think about the situation instead of actually doing the calculation itself. I think if you want to do the calculation, it becomes a lot more detailed, where you have to go and consider the elements that are important for yourself, and then include it onto this formula, which becomes extremely large. It becomes expensive activity, and that's why it comes still back down to the executive's ability to judge. And also why it's one of the reasons why it's hard for AI to replace somebody with good strategic judgment, which means that your job is safe, first of all. But then that also means that you have to gain enough exposure and experience as a strategic decision maker and a judgment provider, or whatever it is, to have sufficient prime recognition, if we were to call it, so a build-up of historical understanding and events and things like that, to make a good judgment call when it comes to this. So this formula, yes, again, is there just to guide you to understand what potentially goes into the decision, but it doesn't give you the full picture when you want to sit down and do the calculation. A lot of elements are missing, and it
Can I
forever
just
will.
Yeah, can I
Yes.
come in?
make one other thing that I have seen with a lot of these sort of projects is the initial sort of team that gets put together gets costed out and stuff, but really it's that change management to get it all the way, to feed it through into the system. You really need to, what I say, have enough fuel to get the project to the end goal. There's sort of no point in trying to launch a rocket with half a tank of fuel. You often get a tool, but people aren't trained enough into using it, and then it sort of doesn't get used well. And it might actually be a good tool, but you haven't managed to win over the change management side of things.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, 100%. What we can also see is that you also sometimes have the reverse, where you prep the market to a point where everybody is waiting and excited and throws money at this project before you start implementing it. And this ironic example comes from Elon Musk, where he spent a lot of his youth prepping and going on media and talking about the fact that we can go to Mars and having rockets in the moon and so on, and doing a lot more media work than actually doing the actual technology itself. And only once the government has decided to throw enough money at him did he start the venture. So what we can see is that change management is a lot more soft skill orientated. And yeah, it takes a completely different ball game compared to just technical structured deployment of technology.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Can I jump in? Edzai here.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so thanks for the expected value formula. I think the only problem is that it depends on the assumptions that is for that formula is that you know the distribution, whether it's normal distribution or beta or gamma distribution, of which we know that theoretically, yes, you could say it follows a normal distribution, but in real life, those distributions don't generalize. So that's one of the big problems that expected value formula has. And then the second thing is it also assumes that things are messy, like McKinsey, people say mutually exclusive, cumulatively exhaustive. So what I've realized is that, because I'm a student of causal inference, so causal AI is something I've been working on for many years, and the way to get around the noise and be able to actually create models that generalize and are useful is to treat data not just as gold, like people are saying, but data is not important. What's important is the data generating process, right? So take, for example, if I walk from point A to point B, you know that I'm going to put one leg in front of the other like that iteratively until I get to a point. And then if I happen to be wearing an iWatch, right, an Apple Watch, then it means it's going to record my activity. So that means that what I am doing is what is generating the data. So if I understand what I'm actually doing, and I'll be able to understand the data better. And then you find that the data generating process, if you know the underlying structure of your data, that means that it'll be time invariant, because there's no way that after 2 years I'm going to be walking sideways or backwards. It's just going to be the same process of walking one leg in front of the other. So that means that even if conditions and context change, there's a ground truth that's there that's driving the data. So that means that if I was to sit 2 minutes with an executive, I would say, first of all, value your experts. Secondly, have a way to map the process such that you know that A causes B, C causes D, and then from there, once you've mapped your processes, then you look at what data can we actually capture and where can we add efficiencies using LLMs and stuff like that. Because unfortunately, with LLMs, it's not because they were the best AI that they won. It's just that your Sam Altmans and them, they came from the venture capital world. So the funders and the people that were loudest were the ones that got LLMs, which are based on deep learning and neural network, which is correlation at scale. Of which, if you read books like The Book of Why by some guy called Judea Pell from UCLA, I think. He's a Nobel Prize winner in computer science in causal inference and Bayesian belief networks. You'll see that they've been advocating for causal AI for a long time, but they lost because it was more difficult to do and it wasn't fundable from a VC model. So, so LLMs won not because they were the best AI, but because they were more fundable and scalable. Thank you.
Fantastic. Wow. Thank you for the in-depth feedback. Let's connect afterwards and discuss this in more detail. I would love to hear more from your perspective. It looks like you spent a great deal of time in causal AI. But I think that also then let's wrap up the session. We are very far over time. Thank you everyone for coming. I will send out the slides. I'll ask IoDSA to maybe distribute, or I'll collect the emails from this call. And again, you have my contacts in LinkedIn profile, so you can connect with me. Thank you again for joining the session, and have a lovely weekend.